Good evening. Welcome to the January monthly meeting of the Norwalk Parking Authority. We will start the meeting off and follow our agenda. And the first item of business is the public comment period. If there is someone from the public who'd like to speak, we would ask that you limit your time to 3 minutes so we can, if there are several people, that we could have everyone heard. So if there's anyone from the public who'd like to speak, please, Darlene, what did they raise their hand? Is that?
Yeah, please raise your hand electronically. It does not appear so, Eric.
Okay, great. Thank you. So the next item is thank you, Brian. Next item is the review and approval of the minutes from the December meeting. Are there any comments or discussion? Hearing none, may I have a motion to approve? Peter, I see that.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Great, thank you. Go have a second?
I'll second.
Second. Thank you. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Great. Thank you. Motion carries. The engineering report. So we'll jump right into Stephanie, to your group. If you, I heard you, I think you might want to share the screen. So we'll get that set up for you.
Yeah, I just want to kind of discuss something really quick about the engineering project report for the Walk Bridge impact that we're going to talk about. As we know, the Walk Bridge project construction has started, and one of the action items when I first joined was to properly plan and any impacts the project has on our parking assets. A large impact is coming to East Norwalk, and I invited the Walk Bridge team to give a high-level overview of that impact, as well as the commuter lot that's located right off of exit 16 off of I-95. The lot is a 40-spot lot. Actually, I have something here. Let me make sure I can show you. Here we go. There's the lot right there. It's an old picture, but it's 40 spots. It's striped now. It also has fencing. We're also, the MPA is going to be tasked. It has been tasked to add signage for the location. Put some park mobile signs up so transient parkers can park there. But it's also being used for the permit holders as well for East Norwalk. That's going to be impacted. And that's pretty much what I wanted to kind of go over before having Stephanie. And if Stephanie and her team want to introduce themselves, because I know Andy was on. I only put Andy and Richard on here, but I see that other people joined as well. So I invite them to, introduce themselves and start their presentation. And then afterwards, if they want to leave, they're more than welcome to leave, or if they want to stay and continue with us, that's fine too. But we have another agenda item later to discuss and vote on some recommended procedures that we have in place. So thanks, Steph. I'm going to stop sharing so you can take over.
Thank you, Brian.
You're welcome.
All right. Let's see here. All right. Can you see my screen?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, great. All right. So good evening, everyone. Thank you. My name is Stephanie Pelletier. I am the PR consultant in the public information team for WSP. WSP is the program manager on behalf of the state of Connecticut Department of Transportation's Walk Bridge project, and also includes what we'll get into, the Time 2 projects that are part of the local bridges going directly east from the Walk Bridge. I'd also like to introduce Andrew Lee, who is our office engineer for WSP on the project. And we also will be joined tonight by Richard R.J. Lesso, who is the transportation engineer from the state of Connecticut, Department of Transportation, District 5. I believe Roy McGlasson is also on the call. He's with our CPI team as well. So it's good to see everybody. Brian, thank you, and Parking Authority, thank you for having us. We appreciate the opportunity to continue having our partnership discussions with everybody.
Stephanie,
Yeah.
excuse me. We just got an echo. Is it just me or is everybody?
No, it's
No, I think we're all getting an echo.
Okay.
It might have cleared up.
Yeah, I think it might, if those who aren't speaking could just remain muted until the time you want to speak, it might be a background that maybe with one of your speakers, so.
Okay. So echo ahead, and we will continue on with the presentation. I'm going to turn it over at this time to RJ.
Yeah, you still have an echo, Stephanie,
It's
so.
still doing it.
Okay.
It didn't start off with an echo.
Mhm.
Something
Still
changed.
echoing? Is there an echo from me?
Nope.
It might be something on Stephanie's on.
Okay, then I guess I'll just get started. Good evening, everybody. Thank you very much for having us. As Stephanie said, my name is Richard Lesso. Most people call me RJ. I see a lot of familiar faces on the Zoom call that we've met with before. I work for the Connecticut Department of Transportation. I am the project engineer for the Walk Bridge program's Time 2 components. During construction, I just want to say that coordination is really important. Coordination with stakeholders, it's vitally important to the success of the project. It really allows us to maximize the utility that we can deliver to the public. So opportunities such as this one are always welcomed and appreciated. So thanks again for having us. Our agenda for the brief presentation today is as follows. Firstly, I'll provide a high-level overview of the Time 2 projects, just to give some context for our work at the East Norwalk Station. Then I'll hand it over to my colleague, Andy Lee. He'll go into specifics about the East Norwalk Station and the parking lot work. Then, of course, we'll open it up for Q&A. So if you could advance the slide, please. So Time 2 is a major subcomponent of the larger Walk Bridge program that I'm sure you all are familiar with in one way or another. TIME is an acronym that stands for Track Improvement and Mobility Enhancements. And TIME projects aim to replace aging railroad infrastructure in an effort to increase speed, thereby reducing trip durations on the New Haven line. Work to be performed under Norwalk's Time 2 include the replacement of the railroad bridge over Fort Point Street and the realignment of Fort Point Street, such that it aligns with the existing South Smith Street to resemble more of a conventional type intersection. We'll be replacing the superstructure of the railroad bridge over Osborne Avenue. We'll be replacing the railroad bridge over East Avenue. We'll be replacing the superstructure for the railroad bridge over Strawberry Hill Avenue. And of course, last but not least, the reason we're here to discuss in detail is the improvements to and replacement of the East Norwalk Railroad Station. So now I'll hand it over to Andy. Introduce yourself and take over. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you very much, RJ. Like you guys said, I'm Andy Lee. I'm the office engineer for WSP. We offer the construction engineering and inspection services through construction in partnership with the DOT. So work very closely with Stephanie and RJ to ensure a successful project and try to minimize the impact on you guys as much as possible. So if you don't mind, Stephanie, if you take us to the next slide. Okay. So the biggest thing you guys are probably wondering is what we're going to be doing at the station, when we're going to be doing it. So the very first closure that you guys are going to see is going to be early this spring. We're going to be closing the station for 3 weeks in order for us to install an underground detention system in the parking lot, in the north parking lot there. So this closure will be 3 weeks. At the conclusion of 3 weeks, that the station will reopen. It'll be just like nothing had happened before. The station's going to be opened exactly how it is currently. Okay. When we close the station early this spring, we're going to be turning over the commuter lot at 180 East Ave to the city and to you guys to allow your commuters to use that, to continue to use it while we do our construction work. Okay. Later on this summer, we're going to be closing the station again for us to begin the work on the north platform. So with that, That closure is going to be also again for 3 weeks. We're going to do selective demolition on the north platform while we begin to construct the temporary platform to load passengers onto trains on the interior track 1. Okay. After that 3-week closure, the station will open up again. However, it's going to open up with limited parking. All those parking spots that are along the current platform there on the north side, unfortunately, will not be accessible. So those eliminated spaces there, those folks can go and park at the 180 East Ave commuter lot. Okay. So that will stay through until 2025, when we will have the completion of the north platform. We once again will have a brief 3-week closure to get everything all cleared out, finish the final steps of the station, and at that point, the north platform will be open and it will be completed at that point. So then what you guys see in 2025 will end up being the final station configuration there. Okay. Then starting in 2026, we'll begin on the south side. So the same process that we did on the north side, we got to do on the south side again. So 2026, it looks late 2026, early 2027. They're ironing out the final details of that. We'll begin working on the south platform. At that time, we don't have a station closure to begin that work because we have interior track outages that will allow for us to build platforms there. And then we're going to actually bridge over the adjacent track to the platform there with temporary bridges for people to load trains on that interior track to get on to track 1. Okay. Then the end part in 2027, we will complete the south platform over there. We'll end with another 3-week closure just for us to finish the last few items, pull out our temporary passenger loading platform in the interior area, and then turn the station back over to you folks. At that point, everything is completed. We have a nice new station, all new parking areas and everything. So everything is all done, all new and beautiful. Okay. If we can get the next slide, Steph. Thank you. So like I said,
Andy, before we leave that screen, that screen, can we just ask? I just want to for the board just some clarifying questions like. So we're expecting just 2 3-week closures in 2024 at the station at this time, right? And then just 1 3-week closure in 2025.
Yes, 1 in 2025. It might end up being early 2026. It depends on how the schedule and all the construction activities go. And then the final one will be in 2027.
Okay. And then does your presentation also include how you're notifying train riders of the closure?
So the train riders and everything, once we have the firm dates from CMJV, our contractor for this project, we'll give those dates to you folks as well as to Metro North, and then Metro North will alert the riders and everything. And then you guys can also work, I believe, working with Stephanie to alert the permit parkers there too. And then there'll be signage put up at the station saying it's closed, trains aren't stopping here, and to allow the transient riders and everything to know to move on to either Westport or South Norwalk.
Okay, thanks.
Wait, so Andrew, you said trains aren't stopping there.
Yes.
So during those 3 weeks, there's no rail service to East Norwalk.
Exactly. During those 3 weeks, the trains will just bypass East Norwalk and continue through.
Okay, so when they park in the new lot at 180, they'll need to get to Westport.
Either Westport or South Norwalk.
Or South Norwalk. Okay. And so how do they do that?
I believe at this time it's not set up with the project in order to have us move people from that commuter lot to the other stations. It would be up to the commuters then to decide where to go and how to get there.
Okay. So
Eric, if I can, for our permit holders, Brian is going to be working with Sirac on notification of our permit, as well as Stephanie, notification of our permit holders and having those permits just transferred during that time to the South Norwalk train station.
Okay. Excellent.
Eric,
Okay,
that was part of that I have that part of the agenda later to kind of discuss operational movements for these closures.
Okay, great, awesome, thank you.
Perfect. Thank you, guys. All right. And then lastly, I'll touch on the commuter lot. So here you have a picture of it. Well, just after it was striped and paved. So it is a 40 space parking spot up at 180 East Avenue. It will be fully illuminated. The contractor is working to get the final light fixtures in, and then that work will be scheduled and done. As Brian said, it's going to become a park mobile site to allow transient as well as the permit parkers to park there. And you guys are handling the signage for that and the coordination. Thank you very much. The one thing to note is the driveway into the parking lot will also be a shared access to the construction yard adjacent to the parking lot. Just a few items that are just going to be completed. Here we are going to be putting chain link fence on top of concrete barrier along between the commuter lot as well as the construction laydown yard. And then that gate that's at the street entrance right now is going to be moved back to be in line with the start of that construction laydown yard. Okay, and I think that's everything for the commuter lot.
So Andy, again, to yeah, Jim, just for the commissioner's knowledge. So the lot you're providing is a capacity of 40, but you do not intend to have more than 40 spaces out at any given time, with the exception of the closures, right? But from a work perspective, you don't. So we anticipate that this overflow lot will be in excess of or slightly in excess of the spaces that are available today. We're not going less than we have today for the commuters, right?
Exactly. Yes. Yeah. That overflow lot, it was looked at and everything in agreements during the design phase going back to like 2010, 2011, when the project first started, everything, these items were added in there. That's what was determined to be a appropriate amount of spots. We'll never take more than the 40 that are there. It's going to be less than that.
Okay. And then we'll work with the conduct to have the lots signed to let people know where the overflow parking is, at that time to get them up there. So just wanted to clarify that for the commissioners that, with the absence of just the 3 weeks, the 3 weeks is, so the 3 week issue, I think, and I don't know if anything was included in those early 2010 discussions, but in those 3 weeks when there's a loss of revenue from the station for the parking authority, is there any, does the parking authority recoup any revenue as part of the project?
That I don't know any agreements that were made early on. That would have happened in the pre-construction phase between DOT, I believe, rights of way and the city of Norwalk.
Okay. All right. Open to the rest of the commissioners for questions.
Just one question to follow up on Jim. This was probably one of the first example. Well, maybe not the first, but this is an example of the reference to earlier agreements. Where are those agreements, and how do we? Because most of the people that were involved in that, we have new faces for the most part. So, Jim, do you have full access to when there's a reference to the original agreements? Do you know what that means, and do you have full access to it?
So a lot of the references we referred to in the city was Vanessa, who was, because as you know, this also predates me, right?
Right, yeah.
As well as pretty much everyone on this board.
Right.
So we rely to Vanessa, and I think what we're hoping to get out of this is some clarification. So I think Stephanie, I think a takeaway from this meeting is looking at what are those agreements that pertains to the parking authority's assets, and how those are what are the agreements? Because I think what's in fairness to Eric's concern, is just we are, and look, I'm not being critical because these were 14-year ago agreements that were placed, but in any case we would forget, right? And we're kind of learning these as they arise, like when the construction or the deconstruction of the IMAX theater took place and it affected the North Water Street lot. We kind of worked that out, and then at the same time, any adjacent parking. So I know that we clarified the loss of revenue going forward with that lot and with any of the on-street spaces. But I think further, if there is some document or series of documents that pertain to the assets of the parking authority, it would be great to get something in their hands.
Yeah, of course. We can talk with the DOT rights of way legal department and everything and see if they can get us copies of the agreements, and then we can share them with you guys.
That'd be great. Thank you.
Yeah, just another quick comment on that. We, like you said, you guys weren't here all these years ago, neither were we, and in construction, we often inherit these projects and we're not involved in the planning whatsoever. So like Andy said, we are working with our legal department to get all these details ironed out, and we will certainly be following on.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Judd?
Andrew, did I understand you're going to replace the actual physical station on the New York bound side?
Yes, both stations, both platforms of the station are entirely replaced.
But there's, on the New York bound side, there's a physical building there, a waiting station. Are you replacing that or just the platform?
That's the former coffee house, I believe, right? The red building there.
Yes.
Yeah, I believe that's actually being removed to allow for the larger platform to go in.
So there'll be no interior space for people to wait.
If I can, Andy, I'll just, I
Yeah.
can, you can, but there is a development agreement with Spinnaker in place to provide a station place on both the New York and the New Haven bound side. So it will be a future, it's in with future land development agreement, but it won't be an asset that is managed by currently. I think what we have is the current station is an asset of the Connecticut Department of Transportation, but managed by the parking authority. The going forward, it would be assets owned by a developer and managed by the developer, but to service the customers using both the New Haven and New York bound side. So going forward, we should, at the end of the project, we should be in a position where we have, a space on both sides of the platform.
But interior heated space.
Yes.
Okay.
And not to get in the weeds on that specific subject, Jim, but are there further parking impacts related to that, or does the existing parking configuration remain the same?
So on the New Haven bound side, there's a current green space area. That
no, I
is
know. Yeah, I know that.
That's the future home of what that building is. And then
Right.
on the opposite side, there is a lot that is being used by ConnDOT currently as their construction area. That's at 4 Point at East Avenue, and that would be a future development site. So it doesn't. So we will still maintain the parking that we have. We should not lose further parking as a result of that.
Okay, good. That's my question. Okay.
Unless Andy wants to tell me something different than I don't know.
No, you are 100% correct.
Okay.
That's right. Yeah, we're not intending to take more parking spots. I believe also with the configuration on the New York bound platform, once everything is all done, I believe we actually gain a few more parking spots up there than what's currently there, with the reconfiguration of the driveway and everything, because the driveway will be reconfigured to come out in line with 4 Point Street. A traffic light will be put there to allow people to get in and out a lot easier. So those are all things too. As I'm sure Stephanie will give you the plug for our website and everything. We have all the renderings of what the station will look like and all the parking areas there and everything too. And like Jim was saying, there is a deal in place between CDOT and Spinnaker. I believe the city of Norwalk too. Everyone's coming together to build those buildings and everything. Kind of concurrently, sort of towards the end of when we're putting these platforms in.
Great, thank you.
Anything else?
I think unless, are you open for questions from us?
Yes.
Sure.
So, yeah, I don't have anything further. If anyone else does, please jump in.
What months does this take place? You know, is it summertime this happens, or?
Yeah, so our first closure is going to be early spring. Right now it's
Oh, really?
trending
Okay.
towards March. And then the second one is going to be during the summer. We're looking sometime late July at the very earliest, August to early September, more than likely. And then the ones in 2025 are going to be later in the year, I believe. It's going to be looking towards like mid-fall. So we're looking probably
Okay.
October, November there.
Okay,
then-
I see it there now. Okay.
Okay, yeah, perfect.
And just a quick comment, the farther we get away from today, of course, you know, it's subject to change and the flux will increase the farther we get away due to material availability, actual versus planned production, et cetera.
Right. Okay, well, thank you.
And I
is
think
it-
just for the commission's knowledge as well. So, you know, we continue to work with Condot on you know, on the project at large, where Andy was talking before, the expansion of the New York bound side parking is happening because you know, the old station house comes down, but also they acquired, you know, through their requirements of the development agreement with the city, they required the property that is opposite of Fort Point with the intention of relocating the driveway. So that property and the relocation of the driveway will not only make it easier for commuters to enter and exit that side of the parking station, but make it, you know, but also provide some additional parking. We have also worked, you know, so Garrett and I worked with Condot on improvements to Cemetery Circle. It was a long plan for the city, so they're going to be working on new streetscape around the station. So all of Cemetery Circle, which would, you know, East Avenue down to Cemetery up to Gregory and back, will have all new streetscape, sidewalks both sides. You know, lanes that are indicative to the, you know, speeds that we want to see, an introduction of bike lanes that go around there, and then get us up Gregory to the station. It terminates now at Wilton, but Wilson rather, sorry, but you know, there's hopes that, you know, we continue it further, but you know, those improvements will also start to take place potentially later this year as well, as we're working with them on license plans.
Exactly. Yep. I believe that's going through final design reviews now with DOT. And then they'll be signing up a contractor and get that going too.
So lots of stuff going around in the station.
Yep.
Yeah. And I think from the people who you live and work there, it's like lots of, you know, it's been a long time. So it's good to see that the work starting.
Yeah.
So Richard, your point about things potentially sliding due to whatever conditions, when someone wants to know, you know, more about what's going on, they'll go to the Walk Bridge website and they'll see this page or a page like this, right?
Yeah, we have some high level schedule stuff on the Walk Bridge program website. If someone's looking for something really hyper specific or maybe even moderately specific, I would say reach out to the PI team, Stephanie.
So maybe Stephanie, we could talk about, from a parking perspective, if someone has a question or concern about parking, their reflex probably isn't going to be to go to the Walk Bridge website. It's going to be to go to the Parking Authority website. So I don't know. I'm just thinking out loud here. I don't know how or what that could look like, but we would serve them best if we had a way to respond. Aside from saying, go to the Walk Bridge website. So maybe as the timing of things becomes more definite, there's something that we could do together that that when they do call us, because it would be a parking related question, we're able to do more than just say go to their website. And I don't know what that is.
Sure. Yeah, we've been talking about different communication tactics, so no doubt we will be collaborating. We don't want your customers flying around from website to website when they just want to know, where do I park? So
Right.
we can come up with a little template or something that you guys can put on your website. We'll cross promote each other. We will cross post on our socials, and also put this in our weekly construction newsletters. We also can do a targeted, a special newsletter that we can do for you guys, and you can send it to all of your permit parkers, regular updates. And our goal would be to give your permit parkers and everybody as much notice as we possibly can, with a real date, rather than saying in a few months, this is going to happen.
Right.
I mean, I think certainly, just from a public awareness standpoint, this is step one. There will be station closures, and there will be a new commuter lot. So this is step one. We will be working in tandem with how we communicate that, in addition with MNR too, because they will be noticing their customers as well. The other thing is, as everybody probably knows, is right in your immediate area of the East Norwalk train station, there are many businesses that rely on the train station for their employees to travel. Certainly, Brim and Crown's got folks who rely on the train station. So we're reaching out individually to those folks who may not use the parking lot, but nonetheless use the train station. So yes, amped up communication, definitely.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Yeah.
And Eric, one of the items that we on the operations side want to do is just have constant contact with our permit holders, as well as transient. I know transient's kind of hard to get a hold of, but we could have flyers, maybe put some signs with maybe a QR code that will lead them to this information bulletin, and have specific communication templates handy when this team tells us, hey, listen, we're closing on March 13th. And it's a week out, we have everything ready just to send out communications to the parkers so they know what's going on. The first communication, I think, needs to be, kind of like what Stephanie said. Hey, this is what's coming up for 2024. There's going to be 2 closures of the station, and here are the options that you can do to park.
All right, that's awesome. Thank you. Okay, if there's nothing further for Stephanie and her group, is there anything further from anybody? All right, great. Thanks. We appreciate greatly your guys' willingness to come in and have this conversation with us, and help us get up to speed. And we're I know we're even this reinforced that we're not going to, it's not one equation that we've got to figure out necessarily. It's going to be a lot of equations, and we want to be a partner with you on that, and make this as it's actually, in my opinion, if you step back and look at this project, it's a very exciting project, and the engineering feat that's being pulled off is astounding. And I'd love for that to be what people think about when they talk about the project, as opposed to being inconvenienced or whatever. And so, to whatever degree we can do that together, it would be greatly appreciated.
Definitely. Thank you very much, Eric.
Yeah, thanks for saying that, Eric. That's very positive. Thank you.
So thank you, everyone, for contact, and we look forward to many more updates as the I think the best thing we want to do from the Parking Authority Board's perspective is make sure they're not caught off guard, because they become the voice of what's happening in parking, right? They want to make sure that if somebody discusses an issue with them, that they have the tools necessary to be able to respond. So if we can have more frequent updates now that the project is really starting to get underway, that I think that would be beneficial to the team.
Yeah, and as soon as we know when dates are happening, everything, and things get more firmed up, we'll definitely share those with you to make sure that there's enough advance notice so no one's caught off guard.
Thank you, Andy.
Great,
And
thank you.
I will do a shameless plug. The Walkbridge Welcome Center is open, right across from the parking garage. So anybody, please come over anytime, call, email, let us know at info@walkbridge.com. And also please sign up for our newsletter, our construction newsletters. And also please follow us on our socials and cross tag. So we will get it done together. And thank you so much. We're available. We're your team here.
Thank you.
Excellent, thank you. Thanks very
Okay.
much. So
I
you guys
guess
are
we're
welcome
gonna
to,
sign off.
I was gonna say you're welcome to hang on, but
Hey, who doesn't want to hear about parking stuff? It's great.
right, exactly.
Thank you, folks. Have a great
All
evening.
right, thank you. Thanks very much.
So long. Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
That
So,
was really great, Brian. Thank you for
Yeah.
for setting that up. I
Yeah,
think that
you're
was
welcome.
really
The
good.
collaboration is, when we first started discussing this on maybe the second meeting I was part of, it's something that is going to help us run the operations during the challenge that this is going to create. And we got to make sure that we make sure that the positive parts of the construction gets put out front, because it's going to greatly enhance the commuter experience when everything's finished. It's a temporary hassle, but for an overall good. So we got to make sure
Right.
the communication that we send out to our customers pushes that.
Yeah, exactly. Like just a few minutes ago when he mentioned that no train service for a period of time. The worst thing in the world would be somebody using one of our parking spots and then standing on the platform waiting for a train.
Mhm.
And then not know that, since the parking spot was available, the assumption is that the train is too. So,
Yeah.
just things like that. So Brian, I really appreciate you, jumping on this.
You're welcome. Thank you. So the next quick item to talk about is an update on the Yankee Doodle Garage, the project with the facade improvement. The bid was closed. It was opened. The bids were open on January 12th. We had a good number of bids. We're now doing our due diligence and analyzing the information, and I'm setting a goal to have our recommendations to you by our February meeting. So it's exciting.
What does that mean exactly? So that you would have for February, you're hoping to have
recommendations on the contractor that we're going to go with, and to.
So we would act at our February meeting to. Do we have to act for you to engage, or what's the process?
You'd have to vote. I believe in Jim. Correct me if I'm wrong, but they would have to vote to approve the contract to the recommended vendor that we present.
Yeah, so we're going to do due
contractor.
diligence. We're going to come back with what it is. We're going to follow the city guidelines for procurement, but the board has to approve the final contract so that any payment could be made and subsequent things. This is the first phase. So this is it's not painting it pretty blue, right? It's getting all of the concrete repairs and the ribs cut in preparation for this. So we are trying to move this quickly as possible so the contractor could get on site, get all of the structural concrete work completed so that we then have a time frame to go out to bid for the actual beautification portions. But the good thing is bids were below what we expected, right? Which is the first time I think I've had that happen a little bit. We think we'll be in a thing, but we're meeting with the contractor, doing a final walkthrough to make sure that their understanding and our understanding are equal before we move anything forward.
Okay. So should we plan a little extra time in our February meeting? You think this will be a long?
I don't think it'll be long. I think it not for this one. It's I think we can provide the summary ahead of time, and I don't think it's a longer meeting now.
Okay. All right. Great. Thank you.
If I could just ask Jim, do you have favorite contractors already that you prefer to work with and something like this?
So I think we know the ones you know, that we like to work with, right? But you know, the when we follow the competitive bid process guidelines established by the city, you know, we really look at, you know, the low bid, but the low bid, we want to make sure that the low bid provider has all of the skills necessary to complete the tasks that are assigned. I think what we're seeing that is, you know, yes, with them, but we also want to just make a clear understanding that, you know, the agreement that we go into place is here, and that, you know, we were clear in our expectation up front, that they're clear in their performance measures, and that we don't end up with unnecessary change orders in order to get the intended work done. So if we have a concern of a contractor, you know, we would address that to you guys in that process.
Yeah, how many contractors bid on the first phase?
Was it 7, Brian? 8? 7? You're on mute, Brian.
I know. It was moving 8. We had 8.
8, yeah. So
Yeah.
that's a hefty number. It's also
Yeah,
a great time
that's
to
a
do
lot,
it.
and you almost get nervous when you go for the low bid. It's great that they all seem to come in low, so you might have a little, you know, because you definitely want a quality job. It comes back and pays dividends down the road.
No, and that's why we do our due diligence now to not be there, because we, you know, unless we have some concerns, we have a requirement of low bid. But I agree with you that low bid doesn't always necessarily mean the best. So we make sure that we're getting the best from it right from the get-go. But I think that we had a lot of interest right now because the timing was really well, right? When you do this, you know, we did this in Sono, and we did a summer bid, and we didn't have this many there because they're all working. Right now they're not working, and we're offering a job that they can start relatively quickly, so they can get in and keep their crews working. So I think that's what helped to create some competitive pricing this go round.
Great.
Cool. All right. If there's
thank you.
nothing further, we could, go ahead, Eric. Thank you.
Yeah, no, thank you. Sirach on the financials.
Rocky, you want to share your?
Oh, I didn't see you there, Sathi. Sorry, I can't see everybody's little thumbnail.
Oh, no problem. Okay, so this December puts us midway through our fiscal year, and overall, the financials look very strong for the authority. The December fund balance is favorable to budget, and that's mainly coming from the expense side. Revenues were pretty much on budget. There was an increase in transient and monthly revenue that was offset by reductions in meter and violation revenue. On the expense side, there was a number of favorable variances over several expense accounts, but the single largest one, similar to last month, was in snow removal. So Mother Nature has been kind to us this month again, or in December. Overall, the year-to-date, the fund balance is also favorable to budget. And that's from both revenue and expense variances that were revenue over budget and expenses below budget. From a year-to-date comparison to last year, total revenue is up compared to last month and to last year. It's up about 7.1% compared to year-to-date revenue compared to last year. The year-to-date transient activity, that's down a little over 1%, and that's really from pretty much all locations have seen an increase in activity, except Haviland, North Water, and the on-street meter activity. Permit activity is up about 4% compared to last year, And again, most locations are up, but it's mainly coming from the rail stations. South Norwalk is up 14%, East Norwalk 19%. And permit revenue year to date is up compared to last year as well. So moving on to the variance report on the next page. There were no major variances on the revenue side. On the expense side, we had a couple. On maintenance, the Lametta construction, or that variance, part of it is due to Lametta construction. That was, if you recall, the balance of the asphalt repair project at the lower Haviland entrance. The plumbing repair was an unfortunate sewer line backup that was backing up into the that was backing up into the bathrooms, and so they had to excavate and repair those lines. And the last major expense in that line item was repairs to our Bobcat. Moving on to the next page, Rock, for the full financial statement. Again, the highlighted lines were from the variance report. And I can leave it here for a minute to see if anybody has questions on that. Otherwise, we will move on. Okay. So as far as system-wide activities, there's fewer transactions overall, but revenue was higher system-wide by about 11,000 transactions-ish. There's a higher number of transactions that were at South Norwalk, East Norwalk. It was really on the rail stations. There's a higher average transaction value that's offsetting even more the reduction in the on-street activity. So we had, we had year-to-date system-wide activity that was lower, but revenue was higher, and that was really the reason, because of the activity coming back at the rail stations. The average transaction value is higher there. So, South Norwalk has a $12 average transaction, and East Norwalk around $7, compared to, on street, which is, $1.35-ish. So, that's why, there is a difference there. When you look at the activity graph on the top versus the bottom of that page, on revenue. Permit sales on the next page, Rock. Those continue to be stable month to month, but you see an increase year over year as employees are returning to work more. So that's been up. Permit activity year to date's been up about 4%. Moving on, Rocky. On street parking. So year-to-date activity and revenue are both down compared to last year. The revenue impact is down about 7%, but that's not as large as the reduction in activity. And the reason for that, and I think we touched on it last month too, is there's been a shift in payment behavior from coins to credit card and pay by cell. So when you compare, December of 2022 to 23, and it's not on this page, but basically, for example, coins went from 24% of transactions down to 8%. And when you look at the pay by cell, that went from, in credit card, that went from 76% to 92%. So even though there are fewer transactions overall, it was offset somewhat by the increase in the number of those credit card and pay by cell transactions, which carry a higher average transaction value. Let's see, and we have the on-street comparisons.
Stafi?
Yes, sir.
Yep. If someone's using pay by cell, and their time expires and they extend it via pay by cell, sitting in the restaurant, does that count as a separate transaction, or is it considered the same original transaction?
So if that's a good question.
It will count it as a additional transaction, not a.
It will or it won't?
It will record it as an additional transaction.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Thank you, Rocky. I wasn't quite sure.
Thank you.
And pay by cell means Park Mobile.
The Park
Yes.
Mobile.
Park Mobile.
And there's a this is somewhat maybe slightly off topic, but there's a fee for Park Mobile that the consumer pays. Is that right?
That's correct.
Yes.
And which all of that fee goes to Park Mobile. Is that correct?
Yes, I mean, part of it does come back.
Is there somewhere that we can understand how that works and how much goes where?
Oh, yes, absolutely.
Because as we look at revenue, I assume it includes that fee, right? Because it was a transaction that cost some amount that included the fee.
Eric, for tax purposes, we do not, because the city, we don't want the city to pay tax on those convenience fees. So what you're seeing as revenue in the financial statement is the total revenue that goes to the city of Norwalk, not the Park Mobile fee is not included in the revenue.
Okay, oh, that's good news.
Buying
But
parking.
still, okay, so there still is some money from that fee that comes back to the parking authority, right?
There shouldn't be any fee coming back to the parking authority. That 35 cents per transaction is fully the Park Mobile fee that they collect as their source of revenue.
Does the credit card fees get deducted from that 35 cents, or do we pay that?
The credit card fee gets deducted from the revenue we collected.
So
we
if
pay
I
the-
can, I do believe we can get back with you on that, Eric, but I do believe there's a small percentage of that 35 cents that comes back to the parking authority in somewhat value to that, not an equal 1-to-1, but to help offset that that fee. Am I correct with that, Staffy?
Yeah, actually, no, Rocky's right. The transaction fees from Park Mobile are pushed to the consumer. I was thinking of something else.
But don't we don't get any percentage of that? I thought we got a small percentage, no?
No.
Okay, I'm wrong.
So, okay, so the 35% is not in our reporting.
35.
Which helps with 35 cents, which helps us with our numbers, but the credit card fee is deducted from our numbers. So, so I guess that's certainly an issue I have with Park Mobile now, but, so, okay, so when we talk about revenue and if pay by cell is going to increase by these numbers, then it's going to impact us more and more.
Well,
Yeah, so the credit card fees, those costs are treated like any other transaction across the system. So you'll see that in the credit card cost line item in the P&L.
Right. So exactly. So it's an expense to us. And I think last time we looked at the budget, it was somewhere in the neighborhood of $300,000. So if that's the kind of numbers we're talking about, then it seems like it just seems like, and maybe Park Mobile is not unique in how they do this, but if they're going to get 35 cents and then we get to pay the bill on the credit card fee, it just doesn't seem to align to me.
So I think Eric, I think Brian's going to touch base a little bit on responding to Matt's inquiry last month about the credit card fee. I think in this with this time I I think part of having Walkbridge come to you today was also our realization in the past 30 days of the closure that's coming to the East Norwalk train station. So that took a little bit more of our time. That didn't allow us to spend resolving that issue, but we're moving it forward, but not as quickly as we had hoped. But we're gathering the information to come with with analysis. But we certainly anticipate getting back to you on Matt's inquiry from last month.
That's great, and I didn't mean to double up on his request. It just struck me when I saw the increase in pay by cell that Matt's point is an increasing. I think I view it as an increasing issue for us.
Yep.
Yeah, so it's an increasing cost as you move away from coin to credit card, and pay by cell.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
That's happening across the industry. Okay, so any more questions on that, or should we move on to parking enforcement?
No, I'm good. Thank you.
So ticket issuance and revenue, they're both up compared to last year, but they're down compared to fiscal 2022. Issuance was up about 14%, and revenue was up about 12%. Citation revenue accounts for a little over 21% of system revenues year to date. And when you go down to the bottom pie chart, we split that up on the board's recommendation between the late fees and the underlying fines. So that 21% is basically broken up, like a little over 15% is from the original fine, and the late fees account for almost 6%. And then if you look to the chart to the right on the bottom, the purple, that takes all the citation revenue, which was about $98,000 this month, and 72% of it is from the fines, and about 28% is from the late fees. And let's see. Eric, I think you had asked about the beach revenue, or the citation revenue that came from the beaches, and we have a bullet point up there. So in December, about 3,400 of the total violation revenue was from the beaches. That's obviously low because the beaches are closed. So this was just when it was collected, and we're seeing about 79% of people are paying their citations online, and about 17% are coming in person.
Great, thank you.
All right, Brock, via the collections program continues. You can see the graph month to month. There's no rhyme or reason for it. It's just sporadic based on collections and when people make payments. But at least that gives you some idea of the craziness of it. And moving on to the tickets and issued versus demand analysis. So this month, the tickets versus demand ratio, it went down in December. Seems like we're almost starting to see trends. So it seemed to follow 2023. So again, what that means, out of every 100 citations, or out of every 100 transactions, about 2.47 tickets are issued. Any questions on this? On the next page, that is the a little more detail on the street by street, excuse me, analysis of the tickets issued versus demand ratio as well. And you can see, the Berkeley and Madison have those high percentages, which we had talked about, that the small changes in these numbers because not many tickets are issued on those streets. So these small changes are become mathematically larger percentages. And the last page is the pay by cell. So pay by cell activity and revenue that continues to be strong year over year. We're seeing it's following similar seasonal trends like we see in overall system-wide activity. So if you look at that compared to what's in the beginning of the report on page 5, you'll see some similarities to that. This is the overall transaction for the month is down from $3.05 to $2.92, and compared to the transaction system wide of $2.27. And pay by cell transactions are becoming a growing and increasing percentage of system demands and revenue, about 27% of activity and 13% of system-wide revenue. And that is all we have there, unless there's any questions on the report. All right. Well, thank you.
Great, thank you. Thank you very much.
Stathy, for this next part, is Rocky going to share the screen again?
Yeah, actually, I'll share the screen if you don't mind.
All right. Yeah, that's fine. So the next agenda item for new business is to discuss the credit card fee overview and next step. So last month, our marching orders were for us to look at the credit card processing fees. Stathy's going to go over the typical fees we're seeing now, so that we all have a clear understanding on where we stand today. After that, then we're going, next steps for me is to find competitive companies to see what they can offer us, as well as analyzing the fees and where they're exactly going. So the questions like you raised, Eric, about Park Mobile, we can confidently say what money's going to, where the money's going, basically. So I don't think I shared. Did I share my screen?
Yeah, and Matt planted all these seeds, so I'm glad. I'm glad he's here.
Yeah.
It just struck me when I saw the increase in pay by cell that
Sure.
what he was touching on is really important.
So can everybody see my screen?
Yes.
Okay. So yeah, I mean, credit card expense is something that is a valid thing to look at, because as parking operations are moving from a cashless, operation, unattended, moving away from coins and bills, there is naturally going to be a higher credit card cost. Now, the good news is that yes, there is an increased cost, but I had a mentor that was in the parking business a long time ago, and he had told me when systems were changing over to credit cards, the way he described it was that it ended up turning the gambler into the insurance buyer, and that's why you'll see credit card transactions at a higher ticket value, at a higher transaction value. So while you're paying more in credit card costs, you should be seeing a revenue bump. So I bet if we went back in time to when there was a lot more coin transactions, it would be interesting, and we didn't do this, but it would be interesting to see. There should be a very large increase in revenue. But anyways, it's become a cost of doing business these days, and so we want to make sure that you're getting the best pricing. But it would be and the reason why Brian asked me to do this was to really share a little bit of how credit card costs work. And believe me, this has been kind of an education for me over the last few years as we were, bidding these services out to make sure that we were getting the best pricing. So there's really 3 components that make up these credit card costs. And there's interchange, assessments, and processing fees. So the interchange is what's paid to the issuer, like the banks, Chase, Bank of America, and the like. There's 150 different interchange rate tables. This is coming from, a lot of this information I got from our processor. So when somebody says, what's your credit card cost? It is sometimes very difficult to explain because there are so many different rate tables and cards that are used. So this, the interchange is a percentage plus a fixed transaction fee that's dictated by the card brand and type. So the bank, in this case, in the interchange rate, is dictating these rates. And the fees are going to vary too by the card brand and the card type. So you've got, your debit card on one end of the spectrum that is probably the lower cost. But as you move towards using like a credit card, a regular credit card, rewards card, a business, a corporate card, and like a purchasing card, the fees increase as you move towards that side. So what happens is like the fixed fee component, it mathematically impacts the overall percentage cost on these smaller transactions, which I'll show you down below in here. So that's interchange. Assessments is what's paid to the credit card brands. So Visa, MasterCard, Discover, Amex, that's what the assessments are. And what they charge is basically how they make their money. So interchange and assessments, these two are, everyone has to pay them. It's like death and taxes. Everybody's going to get them. But the processing fees, which is the third part, is really the only one that we have some control over. So that's what, when we bid out, that's what we really look at. So the processing fees, that's what goes to the processing company. In this case, the company handling our processing is called Integrated Merchant Services, and so when you look at, well, what does credit card cost and what's the effective rate? Well, the higher the transaction, the lower effective rate you're going to see. So in this example down below here, we assume it's a Visa rewards card that's used in this scenario. So if you have a $1 transaction fee at a meter in the Wall Street area, you're going to pay a total of 42 cents on a $1 transaction. And that's coming from 36, almost 37 cents from your death and taxes, and another 5.5 cents on your processing fee. So you can see how when we did this exercise, there had been a few months ago when James was here, we talked, and that was one of the reasons why you sometimes have to set that minimum credit card fee, because otherwise you'd be paying the transaction was a losing transaction. You'd be paying 42 cents on somebody using a credit card to buy, 50 cents or 25 cents of parking. So as you move up in the transaction value, you can see how the effective rate actually goes down. So when you get to, people paying for monthly parking at the railroad station at South Norwalk, that effective rate ends up being $2.49. So when we budget the credit card costs in the annual budget, it's very difficult to project what it's going to be. So we use historical averages and we apply that to the different locations. And each location, we may use, I think this year was a 5.5% average transaction fee we used to simplify the budget process. Otherwise, it would be very unmanageable. But when you look at each location, we assume a certain percentage of all their revenue is actually credit card based. So for on-street revenue, you know, the credit card transactions are maybe 75%, but when you go to the budget that's for the South Norwalk Railroad Station garage, we may assume, you know, 100% or 98% of the revenue there is credit card transactions because we don't accept that, you know, or most people are paying on their cell phone when they're, you know, on the train and running into the extra train. So that's kind of how the credit card system works. And I know it's probably a lot of information, and you know, it took me a while to really kind of process it all and get my arms around it. But hopefully this was helpful, and this, Brian, was what you wanted.
Yeah, thanks, Safi. I know when I saw this info, it was very helpful, and it helped me better understand where our next steps are with understanding what we can control in our expenses with fees. See what we're really pushing on the customers and what our impact is on using credit cards.
So yeah, so there shouldn't be any, you know, any misunderstanding that you can save a huge amount in credit card costs. These rates that we had were, you know, at the time we did this bid, were the best available, and very competitive. So, you know, even if you just, I mean, think even if you move these processing fees down, and I don't know how much you can get these down more, but you'll know when you go through the process again. It's really not going to move the needle, you know, a hell of a lot.
But so none of this negates what we're going to go after for what Matt said, but this was just, we wanted to get to the baseline to be able to make sure that we could justify this, and then we will be presenting the last 3 months of our invoices to the providers to see what they come back with. And Matt, you had a question?
Yeah, sorry. I hope you can hear me.
Yep.
Great. So, you know, Mr. Chairman, I think it's incumbent upon us to walk away from this, and I appreciate, Stasi, your explanation. It's incumbent upon us to understand and be able to communicate that, you know, when we've asked folks to adapt to Park Mobile and they've used the platform and people are utilizing Pay by Cell, the public impression is that the 35-cent processing fee they're paying covers this, right? And so the assumption, the general John Q. public assumption is that the parking authority receives the full dollar. And I think this illuminates for everyone that we don't see the full dollar. But, you know, I hope that, and I appreciate everyone's efforts here. I hope there's a world where we get to a little bit closer to that full dollar. And, you know, I think the law in the state of Connecticut, if I'm not mistaken, and I won't represent that I'm a legal scholar or a lawyer, but I understand that municipalities are the only entities within the state that are allowed to recoup credit card transaction fees through a payment processing portal. So it's something that we can look at as we, you know, move forward with potential changes in, you know, pricing and price transparency.
So it sounds like we need to keep track of the payment processing portal you just mentioned, and because I have no idea what that is, and you know, gain an understanding, because it's a significant issue you raise, and I agree with you completely. It's where we need to spend some real brain power.
So we agree, and we are fully committed to working this. And I think that, I think what we're going to come out of this is really just a clearer understanding, right? So credit cards are great, right? They provide us money in the bank, and we don't have to send someone out to clear out the meters. It allows us to keep our resources there. It ensures that there's not employee theft, right? Because the money is hitting the bank. It's just one person's touching it, right? But and typically, as I think Staffy alluded to, across the industry, every industry sees a higher increase of transaction when it's based on credit card versus cash, right? There's been a number of stories written on how higher transactions on credit card, people just people don't view it as real cash, and they put it. So we typically will see some increase in revenue numbers that come from that, but we also see an increase in expenses. But I think another item that will come out of this, and that that we should continue to talk about as the case goes by, is several years ago when the state of Connecticut imposed a sales tax on parking, the parking authority opted not to transfer that sales tax to the general public who's using it. You are absorbing that sales tax as well, because we never did a rate increase. So I think when we look at the numbers that were coming out of here, and we look at that, it is something we might want to look at when we look at we always talk about right sizing everything. Sometimes it's right sizing, the rates that we have. So we will continue to present all of that information to you so you can make full and educated decisions.
And it seems to me too that the tax that you just mentioned, Jen, along with our rates across the entire system, it's going to affect our rates when we get not much farther down this road, and so it'd be good to have a rate. Whatever the rates are, it would just be good to have the knowledge that of what we're actually getting for the rate, and this is all going to lead to that for sure.
Right. And I think I don't know if Stassi fully got this, but like when you have a credit card and you have points that your credit card gives you for transactions, for this, for that, that is not paid for by you. That is not paid for by the credit card company's generosity of giving you that. That rate is transferred to us. We pay a higher rate for those cards that have all of those perks, right? So if you use a card within any system, that the merchant pays that additional fees. That's that flux fee. So it can go from a very small fee with card with no perks on it to a large fee with cards with lots of perks on it. So that's one of the other things that Staffy was talking about. That's completely, we can't determine what card is going to come in. So we don't know the rate until it's actually processed. Peter?
Yeah, I've got some experience with credit cards, and but I don't have experience with parking authority credit card. But it's it's involved, that's for sure. There's certainly something to be said for if you put in cash or something, and you're sitting in a restaurant, and your hour goes up or your 2 hours goes up, and you say, "Oh, I'm going to really run out there and put another $1 in the meter," or something like that. But if it comes up on your phone, you just hit pay another hour or 2 hours or whatever it happens to be. I think we've all been in a restaurant, we overstay, and it's easy just to plug in more money on your phone. So there's a real benefit to that. So it's got to be balanced out. But then the other thing is, so I see for like $1, you're paying like a lot of the percentage to the credit card company because it's just $1 transaction. How much of that, say $1, if it's pay by cell, are we paying? Did I miss?
Right. It's the same. It's the same. It's dictated by the card, like Jim was saying. So
It's the same amount if it's pay by cell or going to a pay machine with a credit card. It's the same amount.
Yep. All the merchant ID numbers go through the same processor, IMS, so it's the same.
Yeah, it's just a different way to skin a cat, so to speak. It's hard because it's just it's money in the bank, you know, when they give you that credit card or they do it on their cell phone, as opposed to trying to chase somebody for the money. It's tough. It's tough. I just wanted to ask that one little question, but you got to take a credit card today, that's for sure. And those high points cards, you know, it's a big thing. It's a big thing in my business, you know, because it just adds up to a considerable amount of money, but it's not going anywhere.
Right, yeah. So I think
But
it's
anyway,
really great that we've
Thank
taken
you.
this on and we're having this, and we'll continue to present more
Yeah,
information to
thank you.
in the near
Okay.
future.
Yeah, I'll get updates as the time goes on and really put the pedal to the metal to try to get this this squared away and as transparent as we can present it.
Thank you.
So if we don't have anything further, we'll go to the next item, which is discuss and vote for the East Norwalk Railroad procedures during the walk bridge closures. So I want to try to speed this up because we did have a presentation earlier about the closures that's happening. So with those closures come operational changes that we need to take on. It's 110-ish permit users at that location that are going to be affected, as well as our transient customers. So like we, Stephanie and I both stated, I think communication is key to, am I breaking up by any chance?
No, you're okay.
Can you guys hear me?
Nope.
Okay. I just got a
You're good.
message saying my
You're
internet
good,
messed
yep.
up. So, all right, great. So, communication is going to be key here, and being able to be proactive in telling our customers what's going on is going to help them make decisions on what they're going to do with their parking. So we're going to update the website, with help with Stephanie to see if we can get it somewhat more clearer. We're going to have email templates that Rocky and I have been working on to send out, and we're going to increase the signage down at the railroad station as well. So ideally, kind of what I stated earlier, it's if Walkbridge tells us closure is going to happen in 2 weeks with a date, we're going to send out that notification to our email to our permit holders, and also maybe print some flyers out to put on on some transient vehicles down there, and install the signs and just say, listen, the lot's going to be closed during these dates. Please recommend some alternative locations like South Norwalk. And the recommendations that I wanted to discuss, and if it's up for a vote, you guys can vote for it. But we were recommending that we allow the 110 permit users at East Norwalk to have access to the South Norwalk garage during these 3-week closures. We can work out logistics with getting an access card. We can limit the access card for the closure dates, and then we can have, hopefully a lack of impact on the transient customer, on the permit customers, and in turn have signage or flyers and email notifications. I don't know if we have email notifications with transient, but website notifications giving our transient customers notification and also options of where they can park during those times. So it's like opening up a new parking facility. It's going to require a lot of communication, a lot of collaboration, I think, with Walkbridge. And it's not going to be impossible, but it's going to be a little bit, it will be challenging, but nothing that Rocky or even myself or Laz has gone through to try to make the options easier to digest. Do you have any questions or any comments to discuss?
Just for me, it doesn't sound like we need to vote on anything. It sounds like that's an update that you've given us, and it's an ongoing exercise that will morph as it needs to accomplish what you were just saying. Is that correct?
Well, we put in front of you all the time Yeah, we put in front of you all the time, rate changes, right? So if we were doing a discount, it is our recommendation that we allow East Norwalk parkers to park at South Norwalk train station and not incur an additional fee. That's we're only looking at, since it is moving someone, we want to make sure that we're accommodating them. We think it's the right move, but it is a rate difference that we're asking you to concur with us in that recommendation.
I
Okay,
think,
I see.
yeah, it's a great idea, I think. And, it's what, 2-3 week periods? If I remember correctly,
Yes.
so,
Yeah. This year, yes.
right.
For this year.
But no, it's, I'm all for it. I think it's a great idea, Brian. Thank you.
So is that a motion?
Yeah, I'll make a
Good.
motion to approve that.
Okay. If
And I'll
there's
second.
discussion on it, we could do it, but yeah, okay, if there's discussion, Peter second, if there's any discussion on the motion, we could have it. All in favor? Aye.
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 Great. All right, great. Thank you, Brian. Thanks for all the effort on that. And I know it's going to be changing shape and size here and there, that whatever these issues are going to
Mhm.
as they arise. But thank you for being on it.
Yeah, one of
All
the bonuses
Let's
of
try to see if we can recoup some of their time.
yeah. So next business, it's really quick. It's just an update on the handicap compliance of the multi-space meters. I just want to keep on top of this so you guys are aware. We're working on programming of the system. Don't foresee that taking more than 2 weeks. So I have a deadline for getting this completed by middle February. So by next month, we should have this completed, and I'll have updates for next month. And then before a motion to adjourn, I do want to make I do want to just kind of give Stathy a second, because there's some news on Stathy's end. I've only been here, it's been my 4th month has been here, and I've gotten to know Stathy a little bit, but I'm not going to steal his time. So I'd like to, just Stathy, can you just give an update on what's going on with you? And we can try to make a good night out of this.
Yeah. No, sure. Thank you, Brian. As I don't know if some of you, I think I included you on an email last week, but sadly today is my last board meeting. I'm going to be moving on to some other opportunities that I am excited about, but very sad to be leaving here. It was a very difficult decision because I loved every minute of what I was doing. I'm definitely going to miss my brother Rocky, who was who couldn't have operated this whole operation without him. So we've become more than coworkers. We've become friends and family. And of course, I'm going to miss Jim, Brian. I wish we had more time to work together, Brian, and all the board members. And this has been 13 years for me, so there's been a lot of board members. And I enjoyed working with every one of them. And you never know what the future brings. So I hope I see each of you at some point in the future on a more personal level. But thank you for everything.
And Stathy, just on behalf of Jim, I'm sure Jim will say something too, but I want to thank you for everything you've done for me, for the parking authority, and the time that you did spend here. I do, and I wish you the best of luck in your future endeavors. Thank you.
Ms. Stathy, thank you so much. It certainly very best wishes for you in these next steps, and I would love very much to hear of your progress and what you're accomplishing, and it's been really great working with you. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, Eric, you and Scott are like lifers here, so you've been part of my family too, I feel like.
Yeah, thank you so much. It has been great. And
so Stathy,
no, go ahead. Yes.
No, so Stathy, we will see each other later before your leave. But for the record, on with the board, I think on behalf of the Parking Authority Board, on behalf of the City of Norwalk, thank you for, all of the services you have in trying to improve the assets and the experience that we have in parking. We all do parking. It's not an easy job, right? But you've been a wealth of information, and I think, working, with me and with Brian as you, and, Eric being the oldest, well, the longest member on the team, we have a lot of new members. You helped to bring everybody on board. So, thank you. We wish you nothing but the best of luck, and I'm sure that I'll be talking to you going forward. So,
I think that's Judd though. Judd has the longer longevity than me.
And I have to say though, Jim, I go back a while, so not just our Norwalk days. So he's been a good confidant and somebody I've always trusted and admired, and a mentor in many ways too.
all right. So is there any additional business or new business that your board would like to bring before we motion to adjourn?
No, Brian and I talked about something earlier, but we could do it another time. That's fine.
Okay.
So if we could have a motion.
So it's up to you guys to have a motion to adjourn, unless you want to sit and chat for a while.
I'll make a
Thank you.
motion to adjourn.
Thank you, Judd.
Second.
Thank you, Peter. All in favor? All right, great. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks,
Have a-
everyone.
Good night.
Great night. Right, bye.